Hey, I'm Nick, and this is the official start of my YouTube channel. I've got two videos queued up ready for you guys. It's going to be this one, or maybe three. This one, the next one, we're going to be heading up to Fort Pierce. My parents were up there. They were doing the Great Loop. That's where they stopped for the winter. After we get done with that, trip to Fort Pierce and back down to Fort Lauderdale. I've got a bunch of videos on some teak work I did on the boat. I replaced the cockpit combings, the hatch sliders, and I varnished a bunch of that, the handrails and stuff. That's a good project. It's a good how-to. I learned a lot doing that. I do boat maintenance on the side, so it's always fun when I get some time to do it on my own boat, make my own boat looking pretty and working good. Once we get through those 2 or 3 videos, we're going to move on to some newer stuff. I just built a hard Dodger for the boat. A little bit different than the way most people did it. It's plywood epoxy, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Unfortunately, I didn't video any of it because I kind of just decided today, I really should try this YouTube thing if I can make some money on the side. Right now I'm living on the hook. I really don't need much. I got a pretty good setup, working for a towing company down here, and kind of get to use that boat as a dinghy, keep my truck at that marina. So it works for me. If I didn't have a place to put my truck and shore access, it's really hard to live on the hook down here in South Florida. They're cracking down on it, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. You'll notice in the videos I was in a slip, recently moved out of there so I could have some money for boat projects, and it's really working out great. So hopefully, that's kind of the goal here with this YouTube thing is, want to build this in a decent channel on how I fix up my boat, hopefully help you fix up your boat. Tips, tricks, suggestions. I got a lot of experience doing, marine electronics, wiring, fiberglass repair, which I've always been able to do a strong repair, but making it look pretty, that's kind of where I'm getting to now, making it look pretty. That last 10% is the hardest part of any kind of thing. Hard Dodger, yeah, we're mounting the solar panel on that. I got a speaker here for it that I'm hoping to put on probably tomorrow. And I might be chopping out my nav station over here and putting in a toolbox because I need more tool storage. I got way too many tools and way not enough space. Very happy with the size of this boat. It's a 1982 Cape Dory 33. She's a great size for 1 or 2 people. One person right now. I get this thing chock full of shit. Gotta clean some of that up. But that's about it. Let's just jump right into it. So first thing I want to go over is what the boat looked like when I did it. Insert stills here. Actually, let me go find them so I can look at them while I record this. Alrighty. So when I first got the boat, it had just a standard sail cover on it. I didn't like that. It was a pain in the ass to put on and off. I'm lazy. So I wasn't putting it on. I was leaving the sail out. So one of the first things I did is I made a sail pack for it. I used a Sailrite kit. It's an awesome kit. It worked great. I do eventually when I get around to it. Like I said, lazy. Next time I break the sewing machine out, I am going to take a little bit out of it. I built it a little big. I'd rather have it be a little big than a little small. But I think I can easily trim like 6-8 inches off the top and make the front piece a little bit tighter and neater and cleaner. This is actually me like when I was buying the boat. I had my kayak. I kayaked over there in the morning and did it. Drove back. What else is there? It had these cushions in the V-berth. They might look good here, but they were pretty moldy and nasty. So I threw them away. Turned the V-berth into just storage. Next thing I did is I actually did redo the bathroom at some point. I painted it. I took the curtains out. The curtains were all moldy and nasty, and they really didn't do anything for me. There's not much you can see through that window in terms of privacy. Plus, I'm on Anchor. I got all the privacy I want. But I filled all the holes in the walls where all those hooks were and patched it up and made it look pretty. Replace the faucet with something more shower-like, just a hand sprayer, but it's a shower. It works pretty good. It's got a composting toilet already put in it. Highly recommend those for anybody who has a smaller sailboat, is going to be spending a lot of time on it. You don't have to pay for pump outs. Yeah, me living on it full time, once every 4 to 6 weeks, I had to take the thing, dump it out into a trash bag, and then just put it back together. You don't need to clean it like crazy. You don't need to bleach it unless you get flies in it, which I've had happen a couple times. But as long as you catch it early, you just got to clean it out once a month, every 2 months. It's not bad, and it doesn't smell at all. You might smell it a little bit on deck because it vents through the roof, but compared to the smell I've seen in a lot of other boats with the traditional head system, you're ending up replacing those the hoses on every couple of years because they just get so nasty and foul smelling. Highly recommend this. It's great. Again, this is the original interior of the boat. I have done a little bit of varnish work in the interior. Took a lot of trim pieces out, varnished those. Probably not going to have time to work on that until I get the boat hauled out next time. I'll probably get an Airbnb because it's just the dust and the muck and shit while you're trying to sand it. I did take all the curtains out. Like, those curtains were annoying. They used to get caught in the port lights and they get leaks. It's just not worth it. It's the original cockpit. I really haven't changed much here. I am planning on taking down that bimini and taking the davits and the solar panel you can see in the back. I'm going to take that off and move it on top of the hard Dodger I just built. That's going to be nice. I really don't like those davits. They're not beefy enough. I have like the smallest 8-foot inflatable you can find, and it still scares me how much they flex. It actually is causing that handrail to leak and bend a little bit, so I don't like that. We're getting rid of that. I'll just leave it in the water and clean it or pull it up on deck with a halyard. It's just not sustainable. Again, here I've really haven't done much. Blah blah blah. Did a new water pump on the boat, which I was able to find. This is something cool. This is the core from where the previous owner had put in the composting head vent. As you can see, this thing, that's my. I have pretty chubby fingers. That's at least 1/4 inch, 3/8 of glass on the top. 1/2 inch of balsa, another 1/4 inch of glass under that, foam, and then the interior liner. That's one of the awesome things about these Cape Dory boats. I think most of them have those first 2 layers layup. Not all of them have that foam underneath, but that foam is great. I really don't have any issues with condensation with weather changes. Even when I was in colder climates, now in Florida, not really a big deal, but colder climates never had issues with condensation. These boats are great. They're built like tanks. There's new boats they're making that have hulls thinner than that, and that's my cabin top. So really solid boat. Some pictures of her. I've repainted her since. I got rid of the boot stripe. I brought the waterline up a little bit because I do have a lot of weight on her. Did bring that down a little bit. Bottom paint's black, no boot stripe. Same name. I've removed the netting. The netting on the stanchions was freaking annoying. I like being barefoot, and I used to catch my pinky toe in it all the time. And I dislocated my pinky twice, and I was like, I'm done with this. So I got rid of that. Haven't missed it one bit. It looks like shit too. What else have I done to it? Not really much. I mean, but we're adding, like I said, added on that hard Dodger. Move the paint back onto the back. Yeah, that's really all I can think of that's major. But yeah, let's just that's a little intro to my boat. Or let's do an intro to the boat. I'll cut this. Cut here, you nipshit. So let's just cut over to sailboat data. Just want to go over my boat a little bit, some of the things I love about it. And so just cut over my boat and some of the things I really, really like about it. I'll just pull up the sailboat data here with the little screen recording for people so they can see. But basically, she's a 33-foot sloop, full keel, as you can see here in the picture. Bronze opening port lights, lots of bronze cleats, hardware decking, full keel, encapsulated prop. Direct drive. Didn't want to deal with any V drives or anything like that. Heard horror stories about them. The mast is keel stepped, means it goes all the way down to the keel. I think it's great. Gives you, just a lot more support for that mast. It's one thing you don't really want to lose. Layout is pretty traditional. You get this weird V-berth that's kind of smaller than I would like. I wish it was a little longer, but then you're going to lose space other places. So it's as big as you could really make it comfortably on a 33-foot boat. Then you have the main cabin with the table in the middle, galley to port, starboard quarter berth. That is my tool closet. Up here in the front, I got a lot of dive gear, a lot of other shit. I think this is going to pretty much stay storage. I usually sleep in these berths. This one pulls out and turns into a double. So that one's nice and spacious. I usually just sleep in this one. It's kind of like being in college. Your dorm room bed is your couch. This quarter berth is all storage. I still have the cushion in it, but I think I'm going to get rid of the cushion. I was kind of saying like, oh, I don't want to mess with the boat too much because of resale value. It's like, fuck it, dude. I live on it. I'm on it full time. I plan on taking this thing some pretty cool places, and it's just for me, So I want to make this thing what it needs to be for me, and hopefully, if 5-10 years down the road I go to sell it, I find someone else like me that appreciates the value and the work I've done to it. She's 33 foot long with a 35-foot water length. Hull speed's about 6.5 knots. 10-foot beam, 13,000-pound displacement. Just under 5-foot draft. They built them from 80 to 85. 124 of them built. It's an Alberg design. He also designed things like a lot of the Pearsons, the Albergs, which carry his name. Yeah, it's got a rebuilt Universal. Bought it with about 750 hours on it. It's got about 900 now. I really don't use the motor except for to get in and out of port. It's a sailboat. You should sail it. Fuel tank's been replaced by the previous owner. It's 18 gallons now, I think. 75 gallons of water divided by 3 tanks. I think it's closer to 80. One of the things I do want to talk about here is ancillary displacement. Like, it's a little on the underpowered side at 15.6. But it's got a 130 Genoa, which helps. I'm hoping to get a spinnaker and a spinnaker pull for it soon, but I've got some other things I want to budget for first that I'd like to get done. Next big project is probably going to be a wind vane. Really need that, and standing rigging. Standing rigging needs to be replaced. Big thing about this boat was the comfort ratio. It's one of the reasons I got it. Being a big, heavy boat with a full keel and a fairly narrow beam, that comfort ratio really helps a lot. Like right now I'm on anchor, there's boats ripping all around, there's wakes, and boat just has a nice, slow, comfortable motion to it. Capsize screening formula, you want that to be under 2 if you're going to go offshore. Hull speed 6.63 knots. The rig is pretty stout. Got about 48, 50 feet to the top of the mast, which is nice. Under 55 feet, I would never buy a boat over 55 feet, and if I did, I would still stay under like 65 feet. Just most of your bridges are going to be at least 65 feet. Down here in Miami, we have one bridge that's 55. It's the lowest point in the ICW. So you stay under 60 feet, 65 feet. Really makes it so you can get a lot of places on the ICW without too much trouble. I did just put a lithium battery in. I did an Epic 460 amp hour lithium, upgraded from 2 Group 31 lead acid batteries. I can't recommend that enough. I'll insert some pictures here of that system and how I did it. Basically, it's amazing. I used to pretty much, I could run my fridge and my lights and stuff like that, and it wasn't a big deal. But when I did that, I also put in an inverter. When I put in an inverter, I can now run a big box fan when it gets hot out. And I can run my AC off it, but I only have enough battery for about 3 hours a run. And I don't have the limiting factor there is really solar. So I could pull out the water heater, or I could adjust my cockpit locker. I could get 4 of those in there at $1,800 a battery. I get 4 of those in there, and it would work, and it would power that AC for 12 hours. But the problem is, I'm pulling about 1,600 watts with the AC and the fan on, and I would need at least that in solar. And if I put 1,600 watts in solar, there's just not room for it. So that's that. I think I might have enough capacity to toss in a chiller plate in my icebox. Right now I'm just using a 12 volt DC cooler. It's really efficient, pulls like 50 watts max, and it doesn't really run much. So yeah. And so to move on to some future plans, I think right now my main plan is to get this hard Dodger finish, get the hardware mounted on it. I want to mount the hardware before I do the finish paint, so I can kind of sand out. I can over drill the holes, mount the hardware, take the hardware off, do the finish paint, whatever, paint over those holes a little bit. It's not a big deal, and then put the final things in. Now that they're bedded in epoxy, I don't want to do the finish paint and then come over, make my epoxy plugs to bed the hardware, and then no, because it's plywood. I don't want it to rot. I did use like Home Depot grade marine plywood, 3/4 inch, so it should be fairly rot resistant. But I glassed it into the boat. I want that thing. It's now a permanent part of the boat. I want it to last forever. Thing's solid as a fucking rock, though. I can stand on it. I was sanding it, and one day I like just started crawling up on it, not even thinking about it. I realized when I was up there, I was like, shit, standing on this thing, and it's not flexing at all. So probably get some finished paint on that hopefully this week if the weather cooperates, and a video on that. That'll be probably video 4 or 5, depending on how things go. Once we get that finished paint down, we'll be moving the solar panel onto it, probably cutting a hole somewhere to run that wire down to the MPPT, possibly moving the MPPT. It's in the back end of the boat. I could move it forward a little bit, or I could just leave it, run a longer wire from the panels. Haven't figured that out yet, but we will get that done. Once I get that on, I'm going to rip off the davits, because those things are fucking trash and I hate them. Yeah, so anybody wants to buy some used davits, there you go. Not really much else. Once we finish the davits, we're going to go into a wind vane. I think that's the biggest thing I want to do in the future. It's going to be a big expense, but I think it's going to be worth it. Might also do a tiller conversion. Boat has wheel steering right now, and I believe all of these Cape Dory 33s did. But if you look at the winch locations, you can tell it was designed as a tiller steerer boat, and they just slapped the wheel on it. The winches are way far in front of the wheels, so for single-handing it, it's hard to get your lines around those winches from the back of the wheel. You either have to stand in front of the wheel, to the side of it, and you can work your winches. But I think going to tiller steering, kind of like, it's going to make it a lot easier. If you look at boats that are designed the ground up to be wheel steered, they move the winches back. And I just think the tiller steering is going to be a lot nicer. Instead of using a really expensive CPT autopilot, which is what I have on here now, I can either jerry-rig that to work with the tiller steering, which I think I can. I think that's definitely doable. I just need to make like a new gear for it. What I can do is I can just get those El Cheapo ST2000 autopilots, or I'm planning on going with a hydro vane. You can just pop the hydro vane, the tiller pilot right onto the hydro vane. So it gives me options for what I can do, see what the boat handles best, what sails best. So yeah, we're probably going to do tiller conversion. The one thing I'm trying to figure out there is where I want to put the throttle and what kind of throttle I want to use for that. Once we get that done, we might go into the standing rigging. We might also put in a toolbox in my nav station, like I mentioned. I have a drogue that I started like 2 years ago. It's Jordan Series drogue that I need to finish up before I do any real traveling. And this is probably all going to culminate in a haul out sometime about maybe next winter, maybe this winter. I don't know for sure yet, but I want to glass over the hull of deck joint, and I want to put bulwarks on. The tow rail that's on the boat now is in bad shape. There's kind of a tow rail along the top and then a rub rail on the outside. So not only do you have the holes for the screws for the hull of the deck joint, you then have the holes for the tow rail going through and the holes coming in from the outside. I've seen a bunch of other people with similar boats do it. Sailing Uma glassed over theirs. Sam Holmes has a Cape Dory 28. He glassed over his. There's another one you can find like a couple articles. It's like the same boat in like 6 different articles, like Yachting World articles, where it's a Chioi Lee, I think, that they glassed it over and then they put just a strip. Athena did it the same way. They put like stainless steel L mounts on the deck, which you still have holes in the deck, and then you mount the stanchions to that. Nice because you get the water drainage under, but I don't think it's going to be the most durable thing in the world. I think going with the bulwarks. I like the Cape Georges. Those of you who follow the GGR, Kristen, what's her last name? Neuermeyer. Minahana is the name of her boat. It's a Cape George 36. It's got nice high bulwarks on it. I like the security of it. I like the durability of it. But that's going to be a big project because what I'm probably going to do is just grind it back and then take some Kusa board, cut it into probably 6-inch strips, radius the top edge, hot glue it or epoxy it in place, and then glass the whole thing in. It's going to be a lot of glass work. It's going to be a lot of fairing and sanding. At the end of the day, I think it's going to make this boat into what I want it to be. It's going to give me that 6-inch lip. I might do a teak cap rail on it, which I think will look really nice. I might not because teak's really fucking expensive. We'll see. But I think those are my kind of plans for the next 6 months to a year on the boat. Going to be a lot of projects. And I do towing and salvage for work, so we might mix some of that in if we get like a cool storm or a hurricane. And there's lots of stuff to do there. I know a lot of people follow like Captain Retriever, and there's one other guy on the Gulf Coast that does YouTube stuff. And we'll probably, I think I'm going to do some shorts, like just some cutesy fucking shorts on how to do shit the right way. Because there's a lot of ways to do stuff, and there's a lot of wrong ways to do it. And there's usually a very limited number of right ways to do things. They all have their pros and cons, but, kind of droning on here. I know this first video is probably going to be shit, but, hey, you got to start somewhere. And, yeah, I think that brings us around 20 minutes. Feels like a good length for YouTube. So, I'll see you in the next video. I'll be doing a sail up to Fort Pierce from Fort Lauderdale. This is now back in my slip. It's my dog Mabel's first sail. She'd been on the boat her whole life, but that was her first time out sailing. I got her in July, and I hadn't busy with work and shit, so I didn't take the boat out until January. I know. Live on a boat but never sail it. Who does that? So go up to Fort Pierce. Spending some time up there. I don't have much videos up there. It's mostly just the sail there, the sail back. And then we'll jump right into some teak. Redid all the cockpit combings, the hatch sliders. Did a lot of varnish work. Don't have complete videos, but I can show you the finished product. And I have a lot of videos of like what I did and time lapses of what I did. So hopefully we can have that out next week or so. And after that, we'll follow up with some videos on these projects I just mentioned, and we're kind of just gonna hit the ground running. Now that I think about it more, like I might get the toolbox tomorrow. Like 4 projects going on at the same time. Why the fuck not? It's chaos. But yeah, I'll leave you guys there. Have a good one, and I will talk to you in video 2.